Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really going deep, unpacking some profound ideas, some really often misunderstood wisdom. We're embarking on a journey, you could say, into the ancient and transformative side of human history and spirituality. And our guide for this exploration, it's The Secret Doctrine by H.P. Blavatsky. Our mission here is to really illuminate Blavatsky's unique insights. We want to look closely at what she calls the fifth race, these enigmatic divine kings, and the really fascinating serpents of wisdom, right? We're aiming to cut through some of the common misinterpretations, to reveal the deeper, the esoteric truths that resonate so strongly within theosophical thought. It's about offering a powerful justification, really, for her perspective.
Absolutely. And this deep dive, it should give you, the listener, a unique and I think compelling lens for understanding humanity's true origins. It really challenges conventional timelines, conventional symbols. It invites you to see ancient myths, ancient histories with entirely new eyes. It's a perspective that, well, it seeks to reveal the hidden knowledge that's often sitting right there in plain sight. Knowledge that truth seekers have, frankly, been searching for a long time.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our journey starts with a concept that's just fundamental to Blavatsky's work, the fifth race.
Well,
Now, that's essentially us, humanity as we generally know it today. But here's the core idea right away. Blavatsky radically rewrites human history. She reveals that we're just the latest chapter in a story stretching back, well, millions of years.
exactly. Far, far predating the timelines you get from mainstream archaeology. And what's fascinating truly is the sheer scale of it all. We tend to think of humanity as relatively recent, right? But Blavatsky reveals this much vaster antiquity. The fifth race, as she calls it, actually includes the remnants of earlier Atlantean peoples. We're talking about various yellow, brown, black, and red races who survived a great deluge.
A great deluge.
Yes, and even before them, the earliest human stocks, the moon-colored first and second root races, they vanished during an even earlier third great flood, one that swept away the immense Lemurian civilization. So
Yeah.
we're talking about a history that it beggars modern belief, really.
And what's really striking there is this Lemurian deluge. It's allegorically called the Great Dragon. Those sources tell us this force was so powerful its tail could sweep away entire nations, just gone. But there's a crucial distinction made. The Great Dragon has respect, but for the Serpents of Wisdom. So who were these Serpents of Wisdom? What does that mean?
Indeed. These serpents of wisdom, or adepts, they were the wise men of the third, fourth, and fifth races. They weren't literal serpents, of course. That's a common misunderstanding.
Right, okay.
They were enlightened beings, ancient initiates who preserved their profound records, their knowledge in these subterranean habitats, often hidden beneath pyramid-like structures. And crucially, these pyramids weren't just in Egypt.
Not just Egypt.
No, they're found globally, North and South America, even older, maybe cruder copies in Europe, like the colossal menhirs in Brittany. It really points to a hidden, sort of interconnected history of knowledge preservation, way beyond what we typically imagine.
Okay, so if we take this framework seriously, what does it actually mean for our modern perception of history? It feels like Blavatsky is challenging our deepest assumptions.
She absolutely is.
For instance, the idea that the last major Atlantean lands sank around 850,000 years ago, that vastly predates Plato's Atlantis, which was much smaller.
Much smaller and much later.
Right, so this suggests the genuine antiquity for these ancient beliefs in giant ancestors, in earlier highly developed civilizations.
Yeah.
Even if, modern science struggles to accept evidence like a 57,000-year-old skeleton. It's a profound invitation, isn't it, to look beyond the conventional boundaries.
It really is. And it raises an important question, I think, for any truth seeker listening. If this profound history of human evolution isn't just traced on underground walls and hidden sanctuaries, but is also meticulously recorded in the heavens, well, how deeply are humanity and the stars truly linked? Linked through these celestial intelligences that are said to govern them.
That's a fascinating connection. Let's delve deeper into that dragon symbol itself. You mentioned it's packed with layers of meaning, far beyond what maybe modern symbologists might just dismiss as, ancient fancy or superstition.
Yeah, more and more.
Blavatsky makes a strong case for its profound, almost factual basis, doesn't she?
Yes, it's more than fancy. It's this profound convergence of myth and astronomical observation. Consider someone like Richard Proctor. He noted how the constellation Draco, which was once our pole star, by the way,
Right, yeah.
how closely it corresponds with flood events in ancient legends. Blavatsky clarifies this. She explains that different kinds of floods got mixed up in ancient stories. There's the ultimate cosmic flood, which is more like a universal spiritual reset.
Okay.
Then you have astronomical floods tied to celestial cycles. And finally, the terrestrial floods, like the sinking of Atlantis. Occultism shows us the underlying unity, you see, but also how these distinct events became, well, conflated in human memory over vast periods.
So the great zodiacal allegory, for example.
Yeah.
It isn't just an abstract story. Blavatsky reveals it's actually based on real historical events. It's a record, not just a fable.
Precisely. Occult teaching reveals how these astronomical and zodiacal floods, like, say, the Nimrod epic's 12 cantos, aligning with the sun's course, they're actually predated by an even more ancient cosmic flood. This cosmic flood was later allegorized as Noah's story, but it is entirely distinct from the terrestrial Atlantean submersion. Differentiating these layers of allegory is really vital for a true understanding.
Which means the pyramids, they aren't just tombs.
Yeah.
Not just architectural marvels.
Far from it.
They're deeply connected to the great dragon, that's the constellation Draco, you said.
Yes.
And the dragons of wisdom, the great initiates of past races, and even the floods of the Nile, which were seen as a kind of divine reminder of the great Atlantic flood.
That connection is there. And universal history's astronomical records, they're said to have begun with the third subrace of the Atlanteans. And occult data apparently shows Earth's poles have inverted 3 times since Egyptian zodiacal calculations began.
3 times?
That's a truly mind-bending scope of time, and a testament perhaps to this hidden knowledge.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly to another symbol, one that has been profoundly misunderstood, especially, I think, for those seeking truth beyond, let's say, rigid dogma. The serpent.
The serpent.
So often maligned by the church as the tempter of man. But it's absolutely central to Blavatsky's doctrine. For theosophists, for truth seekers, countering this slander and understanding its true, ancient meaning. That's crucial, isn't it?
Absolutely crucial. In ancient Chaldea, for example, the dragon, or the scaly one, which esoterically also refers to Makara, the 10th zodiacal sign, it certainly wasn't malevolent. Think about that scene often interpreted as the biblical fall. 2 figures, a tree, a serpent dragon.
Yes.
Esoterically, that represents something profound. It depicts 2 Chaldees, which means initiates in training.
Okay.
And the serpent symbolizes the initiator, the giver of sacred knowledge, the jealous gods who curse them. They represent the profane, the exoteric clergy. It highlights this ancient conflict between hidden wisdom and outward dogma. An occultist understands this has very little to do with a literal biblical account.
It's hard to imagine, really, in our modern world, anyone genuinely believing that literal snakes taught early human races.
Right. It sounds absurd.
And this common literal misinterpretation, it led early science, perhaps understandably, to dismiss ancient writers as just superstitious. But figures like Homer, Aelianus, they understood. Dragon implied something hidden, something sacred, divine, that the profane should remain ignorant of. This was knowledge preserved for the initiates.
Exactly. And the term dragon itself, it has this profound 7-fold meaning. It rises far beyond simple bestial imagery. At its highest level, it's identical with the self-born, the logos, the universal creative intelligence.
The logos itself.
Yes. Among the Christian Gnostics, like the Nicenians, the dragon was actually the second person of their trinity, the sun, and his symbol was the constellation Draco. Then terrestrially, the term dragon was applied directly to the wise men, the adepts themselves. This connection is vital for a truthful understanding of ancient wisdom.
Wow, that completely reverses the narrative we've often been given, doesn't it?
Completely.
Milton's poetic fiction of a war in heaven, with the dragon falling,
Yeah.
it's become cemented as dogma in many traditions.
Sadly, yes.
But the allegory of the dragon and his celestial conqueror didn't originate with St. John in Revelation. His dragon is connected to Neptune, a symbol of Atlantean magic, not some literal devil.
Precisely. The original meaning was entirely different. It really highlights a profound distortion of these ancient symbols over time. And, in the allegorical language of the adepts, things like the astral light, the Milky Way, the path of the sun, even the circles of the tropical year, they were all called serpents.
All called serpents.
Yes. The Gnostics identified Poseidon, or Neptune, as a dragon. And they referred to the Messiah of the Niceni as the good and perfect serpent, whose celestial symbol is Draco. Even in Zoroastrian esotericism, the serpent that supposedly transformed eternal spring into winter, that was an allegory for a pole shift.
A pole shift, like the Earth's axis changing.
Exactly. A monumental change. which indicates this profound ancient geographical and climatic knowledge that, frankly, modern science is only just beginning to really acknowledge or investigate seriously.
So this means symbols like Meru and Patala, which got simplified into heaven and hell in many exoteric religions. They were originally astronomical allegories for the Earth's poles. The gods, representing the zodiacal signs, were said to periodically ascend and descend Meru.
It's an astronomical allegory for the shifting relationship between the Earth's pole and the celestial pole. There's even an ingenious calculation mentioned suggesting a celestial ladder formed by the zodiac, upon which these gods, ascended and descended, would have been visible over 400,000 years ago.
400,000.
It ties humanity to cosmic cycles on a truly vast scale, way beyond our current sort of common understanding.
Okay, so if these concepts hold true, who are these divine kings and these serpents who redescended to guide the fifth race? How did these profound beings actually interact with humanity? How do they shape our early history and knowledge?
Well, according to this teaching, they were real entities, not just myths. They were what Blavatsky calls the guidanceof, essentially ancient, highly evolved spiritual beings, also known as the Serpents of Wisdom.
The same serpents of wisdom.
The very same. Think of them maybe like the Mazdaean Umshespens, the immortal benefactors in Zoroastrianism, or the angels of the stars associated with the 7 sacred planets. Crucially, they're described as the builders, the watchers, and the first preceptors of mankind. They literally laid the foundation, you could say, for our civilization and imparted essential knowledge.
This esoteric understanding, it really does seem to help resolve so many historical riddles, doesn't it?
I think so.
It explains why figures like Zoroaster might appear as, say, 12 or 14 different figures throughout history, why Krishna and Buddha speak of themselves as reincarnations, why a great god like Osiris is also described as an earthly prince.
Exactly. These weren't random occurrences. They were conscious, repeated incarnations or perhaps manifestations of these highly evolved beings.
So how did that work exactly?
Well, the esoteric doctrine explains that these beings first appeared on Earth as individualized powers of the Logos, the universal creative principle, like a god or an angel, you might say. Then, by mixing with matter, they reappeared as great sages and instructors for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th races. They ruled during the divine dynasties, guiding early humanity. And then, profoundly, they sacrificed themselves to be reborn at critical periods, all for the good of mankind. They were described as parts of a part on Earth, yet they remain aspects of the One Supreme in nature. It's a complex but beautiful idea.
A powerful example comes from Western Kabbalism too, right? The Kabiri, described as the divine instructors.
Yes, the Kabiri. And they are seen as identical to figures like the Corybantes, Curetes, Dioscuri, and Titans found in other traditions. Esoterically, these are understood as the same as the Manas, the Rishis, the Denai and Chohans, who consciously incarnated in the elect, the chosen ones of the 3rd and 4th races, to guide humanity's evolution.
And these Kabiri were also known as deluge gods.
Yes, because they personified the opposite poles and were intended to commemorate those massive pole shifts, those monumental inversions of the Earth's axis that cause immense terrestrial and cosmic changes, displacing oceans, upheaving continents.
Huge events.
Massive. Yet their original character is profoundly beneficent. Figures like Prometheus, Hermes, Orpheus, Cadmus, Asclepius, these are seen as generic names for these benefactors. They brought intellectual light to humanity, invented fire, revealed agriculture like Isis, Osiris, and Ceres, and significantly, the source tells us that corn and wheat were brought from other spheres.
Other spheres, not just developed here.
That's the implication, brought by these lords of wisdom.
Which brings us full circle, back to the serpent as the true emblem of the adept, representing wisdom, prudence, immortality, divine knowledge.
Exactly. Think of the caduceus of Mercury with its 2 entwined serpents. It's a transparent allegory, really, for the dual power of secret wisdom, both the positive and negative aspects, white and black magic, you might say.
And in China, one of the oldest nations of our current 5th race, the dragon remains the emblem of the emperor, understood as a descendant or successor to these ancient serpent initiates who ruled early humanity.
It's a powerful, consistent thread running through these ancient traditions, and it offers profound insight, I believe, into their real origins.
Okay, now let's tackle something truly contentious for many people, the sons of God from Genesis chapter 6.
Ah, yes, a tricky one.
Dogmatic interpretations often paint them as literal fallen angels who led humanity into wickedness. But Blavatsky's view, which aligns powerfully with ancient texts like the Zohar, It presents a radical and absolutely vital reinterpretation for anyone seeking a deeper truth.
It really does. The source clarifies that the term B'nai Elohim was actually a name common to both the good messengers, the Malachim, and the lower angels, the Ishin. And the Zohar explains that the beautiful Ishin weren't guilty. They were sent to Earth to mix with mortals, essentially initiating sexual reproduction on Earth, much like the figure Daksha in Hindu tradition.
So it wasn't a fall in the sinful sense.
No, according to this view, it was a necessary step in human evolution, guiding humanity towards physical procreation when the earlier, more ethereal, mind-born beings weren't sufficiently peopling the world.
Okay. And what about the great wickedness that the Bible says led to the flood? Blavatsky, drawing from these deeper sources, indicates it didn't actually come from these mighty men of renown
Yeah.
like Nimrod.
Yeah.
Instead, it came from the monstrous, often sort of animalistic progeny of giants who spawned lower, less evolved races of men. This truly reframes the entire narrative of human deviation and the reasons for the flood.
It completely reframes it. And crucially, figures like Azazel, often demonized as a devil,
Right.
are re-explained in the Zohar as a venerable divine name, more like a sacrificial victim, perhaps, or the Hebrew Prometheus. This symbolizes spirits bound to the earth during the cycle of incarnation, a kind of voluntary descent for humanity's benefit. The Book of Enoch's account of Azazel teaching arts and sciences becomes symbolic of divine wisdom encountering and transforming matter, elevating the physical through spirit.
This feels like the core reversal in occult teaching, and it's a powerful one.
It is.
That what dogmatic religion portrays as the anthropomorphic archangel, or the man-like God, often represents matter, while the dragon or serpent represents spirit.
Exactly. This esoteric key unlocks so many previously incomprehensible passages in world scriptures. It shows a completely different layer of meaning.
So what the clergy of, well, every dogmatic religion points to as Satan, is in reality the highest divine spirit occult wisdom in its natural opposition to all worldly illusions, and that includes ecclesiastical dogma itself.
Precisely. When the churches anathematize the Gnostic serpent of eternity or the serpent of Genesis, they are tragically moved by the same spirit of fanaticism, really, that led the Pharisees to accuse Jesus of having a devil. It's a profound misdirection away from the true source of spiritual wisdom.
And we see this kind of distortion elsewhere too, right? Like with Indra in Hinduism.
Yes, Indra, the highest of gods in the esoteric Rig Veda, becomes a profligate drunkard in the later, more exoteric Puranas. And Samael, often presented as Satan in the Kabbalah, is shown esoterically to be identical with Saint Michael, the dragon slayer.
Identical. How?
The Chaldean Book of Numbers apparently explains they are one, both proceeding from the same source. Samael represents concealed or hidden wisdom, while Michael represents higher terrestrial wisdom. The Church, in its desire to consolidate power and control the narrative, perverted this teaching. They made Samael Satan, who is, in truth, the wisest and most spiritual aspect, into the adversary of its very anthropomorphic, man-like God. It's a profound misrepresentation of ancient universal truths.
So wrapping this up, what does all this mean for you, the listener? For the truth seeker or the fellow theosophist grappling with these ancient texts, we've taken a pretty deep dive into Blavatsky's framework here. We've shown how symbols like the serpent, events like the flood, they hold these profound multi-layered meanings, far beyond the superficial or dogmatic interpretations we often get. It's about peeling back those layers, isn't it? To see the living wisdom underneath and really justify the depth of her insights.
Absolutely. It highlights a history where divine beings actively guided humanity. They imparted knowledge, they initiated civilization, and where our understanding of past events, even our own origins, has been heavily veiled by these narrow, dogmatic interpretations. Blavatsky's work really acts as a powerful counter-narrative. It reveals the deeper, often hidden truth that many traditions actually hint at, if you know how to look.
This deep dive hopefully reveals a universe of profound interconnectedness between humanity, the stars, spirit, inviting us all to rethink fundamental questions about our ancient past and our spiritual evolution. It feels like a call to embrace a more expansive view of reality, one rooted in a deeper theosophical understanding.
Well said. And perhaps it leaves us with this thought to ponder. If the first inventions of mankind, like fire by friction, and even something as basic as wheat, if these weren't just discovered by chance, but were actually brought from other spheres by these lords of wisdom, then what other profound secrets about our origins, and maybe even our future evolution, remain hidden, waiting perhaps for those with the courage and the spiritual insight to look beyond the obvious?